Good evening, anybody on stream who may be watching, and we are live. Welcome to Friday night streaming with me, Zaragonart. Dear. Sometimes things like that amuse me, little things and whatever, that usual saying. Okay, so we're going to continue doing some more pyrography. We're going to continue doing this buddy tat. And so we'll turn the pyrography machine on. We'll pick up the pen and we'll just make a start. So welcome if you've just joined the stream. Now then, I have to make sure that the fur moves in the right direction, otherwise it will look slightly odd. And so that's basically what I'm just going to be doing here now, is doing some more fur down around his nose. And I'm going to be better doing this the other way around so that I've got a more natural angle. And the fur, if you're able to see it on the reference image, actually again curves and starts to change direction a little bit just around his nose here, as it curves around the side of his face. So I want to follow that example, and then it will look more natural. Using a flat shader to do this, and I'm using it in a fashion where what I'm just doing is using the right angle fine tip on it, because what I've found makes an excellent shape for fur because of the texture it creates in the wood. And I like that texture. It looks like cat fur, so it works really well. Now this is a really dark brown or black cat, so the colour that I'm laying down here isn't dark enough. But since everything is relative to each, all the colours are relative to each other, then what this will do is give me room to go darker if I need to do so, compared to any other part of the cat. So little tiny fine hairs around the very nose of the cat, so I am almost just dabbing down with the tool, and I'm going to just turn it down a little bit just for the moment, for two reasons. One is it was heating up a little bit aggressively, the wood, for what I'm comfortable with, and the other, it means it doesn't heat my fingers up quite so much. So I can carry on doing it for longer before I need to rest and let my fingers cool off. Because the angle of this particular pen, when I'm using it in this atypical fashion, is such that the heat's coming straight up into my thumb or finger, depending on what's in front. So I'm kind of holding it a little bit on the side, so that the heat comes up the straight past my fingers, and it doesn't get as hot. So on this side of his nose, again I've got to curve it down very little at this bottom end here. That just where? Oh, there's his nose. just trying to see my guidelines. And then once I see the guidelines, I can actually just carry on and fill in. Now this right at the bottom here, the hair is almost going straight across the wood, but very quickly it transitions to coming down in a curve alongside the nose. So I just need to keep an eye that I'm doing it in the right direction. It's a nice sweeping curve. What I would generally speak or describe as a satisfying curve, just because it's got a nice angle and nice shape to it. Now just on this bit of the wood here, the wood itself isn't actually taking the heat quite as well as the other bits have, so it's not going quite as brown quite as easily, which is just one of the things that you deal with when doing pyrography. All woods, it's a natural product, so they different. Even pieces of wood from the same tree or the same batch differ, and they can differ across the face of the piece as well. And sometimes you just get some areas of wood which just really you struggle to actually create a nice range of colour on. I don't particularly know what it is. I mean, I know why the colour's not there is we're not getting as much sap out, and therefore we're not able to cook it, and therefore it's not giving the same colour range. But quite why there's not quite as much sap there is part of the interesting question. Okay, again, this technique is tending to only colour one side of a V groove that's been created, so I will actually have to turn it around and go the other way to darken it down, but for the moment it's producing an acceptable output. Now I do want to make sure I lose my guidelines, so just make sure I go over the guideline, the edge of the guideline that I created when I first drew it. That way it doesn't it isn't visible in the finished piece. Plenty more opportunities to go over and remove those, so it's not something which is particularly bothering me at this stage. Now we'll give his nose a light colour, and I need to clean the bottom of this tool, so I'll just run it on the paper. It does collect sap on the bottom, and therefore you do get it does tend to sort of just, it's like using a crayon or something on the wood. It colours it just because you're painting something over the top of it rather than actually cooking the sap. But what that does is tends to make the surface dirty more than colour it, so useful to keep the tool clean. Now his nostrils, of course, that are in here are somewhat darker than the rest, so I'm going to apparently I'm going to make them darker than I intended, but that they they really do want to be as virtually as dark as I can get it, but just for the moment that's not an option that's available to me. Or rather, it is available to me, but I don't actually want to take it at this time, because what I want to do is make sure all the areas around it have a corresponding colour. So now I'm using the shader as it's meant to be used to create a shade. Now this nose will look funny for a while, mainly because this bit area around here is actually the fur, and I need to put that in, but I haven't quite got it there. And in this particular position I'm now trying to study if I actually see his left nostril. It's on the right in the image. I think I probably see just a little bit, so we'll just tag, because he's got his head to one side, we'll just put a mark there, which hopefully will turn out to look right by the time I've finished. Now then, his nose, he's got black fur under his nose, so we're now going to put some of that in, which will then reshape the nose, or give you the actual shape of the nose, so it will look a little bit better. Let's move that to one side. There we go. Because at the moment his nose looks a bit weird, and I'm probably going to need to do a lot more work on it. But just for the moment it's reasonably okay as it is. Keeping the fur going in the same direction as the marks going in the same direction as the fur. That way when the piece is finished it actually looks like proper fur. Okay, I've just got a pussycat visiting, which you might be able to hear. He may come and say hello on stream, but maybe not. Don't ideally want him anywhere around where there's a hot iron or a hot tool. Don't want to accidentally hurt him. He's definitely talking about something. He's trying to tell us something, but I don't quite know what it is. Knowing this pussycat, it's probably no one has ever fed me ever in my life, and please can I have some food? Which of course is totally untrue. He gets fed regularly. Quite complex fur structure around the nose and the eyes, because that's where all the fur sort of originates, on this area in the middle in terms of the directions it moves. So it can be challenging sometimes to get something that looks realistic. And I am currently just staring and looking at the areas on the reference image, just to make sure I try and get something that does actually look realistic. And in actual fact I'm also using the image that's in front of me, which is a completely different cat, but I'm also using that as a reference image as well, as to how to actually do some of this fur marking around the face of the cat here. So if you just joined the stream and don't quite know what you're looking at, this is pyrography. Pyrography has, I understand, Greek roots of the word. Greek, Latin, that sort of roots. It's, I understand, quite literally translates as writing with fire. Pyro being the fire, graphy being writing. Although, as you can see, I'm not writing, and I very much hope you don't ever see fire. So what we're doing is we are actually drawing with heat, which is a more accurate sort of description of pyrography. Now then, just right around the eyes, it is a smooth area where the fur doesn't quite get, it's kind of like your eyelids, your eyelashes are not on the bottom, they stick out the front of your eyelid, so you've got a smooth area which is where on the top of your eyelids, or top or bottom, where they come together. Cats are somewhat the same. So all I'm want to do here is just put that outline in. Now there is some shading involved, but I'm not necessarily sure it's worth particularly doing too much of it. Because it will actually work just as well without it. So sort of this top left hand corner here, there's a little bit of a highlight. We'll just do it slightly lighter, just see if that works, but if it doesn't, it's not really a great deal of a problem. So it's kind of getting an eye outline at the moment. A bit like putting makeup on him. Not that we ever do that with cats. Actually, having said which, cats that go to cat shows do sometimes have makeup on them. White cats especially, they'll put like a talcum powder into the fur, which makes it fluff up a little bit and also makes them look whiter. So I suppose you could consider that sort of a makeup. Okay, so that's kind of a smooth area which I want to try and keep the hair texture just away from that corner, all the way around the eye there, just so that it actually looks as it should. Now the top bit is actually fur, of course, because you can't see the top eyelid because it's kind of hidden underneath. So we do have hair going all the way up to that top area there. And how does it go? I'm trying to, the problem with sometimes we're doing really dark cats is you can't actually see the fur direction. I'm not just this area is all a bit funny in terms of where the hair goes, and I'm thinking this probably is more or less straight across the eyelid. It would kind of make sense, or slightly up as it curves to go around the side of the face. So we shall assume that's the case. And we'll put that in. So if you're looking at this and thinking that I'm actually burning the wood, because pyrography is often described as wood burning, this type of pyrography that I'm doing here really isn't burning the wood at all. Essentially what it's doing is drawing the sap, the liquid, out of the wood fibres, and it's cooking it. So very much like maple syrup, as you cook maple syrup, the sap of the wood, it goes a nice golden colour. Well, that's effectively what we're doing here. You can control how dark it is by how much heat is applied, and you can apply heat either a lot of heat for a short period of time or a small amount of heat for a longer period of time to get the same sort of colour. And so it's, there's different techniques, different people prefer working different ways. I tend to prefer to work slower because I have more control that way, and by doing it slower, okay, I don't get to the colour I want very fast, but then I can do a second layer, which, because you can recook the sap, so to speak, I get a second layer which then allows me to make it a bit darker, and I can do that again, which makes it darker still, so I can keep going over it and darkening it down. Now there is a type of pyrography where you use a really high heat and you do effectively burn the wood, you carbonise the wood, and that's kind of typical of the pyrography tools that you find in a lot of hobby shops. It's not that it's inherent in there, but that's how people tend to use it. They generally look like a soldering iron, and they come with like stencil tips, for want of a better description, or stamps, and people will actually sort of put it on the wood and hold it there for 10-15 seconds, and the wood literally carbonises. And people can do things in that style, cartoon-like work, or it often works quite well in that, or just pure black and white. But carbonised wood is a little bit awkward to deal with, and the wood kind of shrinks away from you, so you get a really rough texture that way. But you can actually also use those tools in just the same way I'm doing here, you just have to use them in a different way. This particular tool that I'm using here just makes it easier for me to work in that different style. I have more control with this. There's a lot less heat involved, and because of that I can get more subtler shades as I work through it. Now then, okay, so this sort of curves around and curves around this way and then moves around the back here, and this is then a curved shape. We don't go straight across, we actually curve around, and just as you might see on this one here, we curve around, and that allows you, because you're following the fur and the texture direction, to see a three-dimensional curve, and of course it's a flat piece. So that's the reason why we follow the fur direction. Your eye gets fooled into seeing a curve which really isn't there, but it makes the piece look more natural. And that's part of the trick of making a good image, is to actually make it look so your eye believes what you want it to see. The wood I'm doing this on is it's a plywood, so it's literally made up of individual plies. In this case I think there's 3. There's usually an odd number in plywood, and that's for stability reasons. This is made out of it's made out of birch, so this is birch plywood, and I pick birch because of the colour. It's a very light colour, as you can see, which is lighter than a lot of standard plywoods are. And one of the reasons for using light woods is that it gives me more of a colour range. So my colour range is basically slightly darker than the eyes here, all the way to uncoloured wood, and there's a heck of a range of colour there. If I was using a darker wood and to go ridiculous like ebony, which is almost black, I've got one colour. I've got one shade which is carbonised, and that's about the only one that you'd see on ebony. So the lighter the wood, the more range you've got, and the more tonal range that you can get into the piece if you need to use it. there is I have discovered what may be a better wood, which is poplar, and I've recently purchased some poplar plywood, which is significantly lighter than this, so I'm looking forward to seeing just how that the images that I can get out of that for pyrography purposes. One of the interesting things with buying plywood is plywood also comes in a range of grades, which make buying plywood, or well, plywood in particular, quite challenging because of the way it's made. If the wood ply, or the wood is effectively shaved off a trunk of a tree in a sawmill like a pencil sharpener, and they use a blade and they take off a real tiny, well, tiny depending on the thickness that you're after, layer. So they sometimes shave it for veneer, which is thinner than this, or plywood like this. And if it's near the outer of the tree, you get the knots and other imperfections, and as you get closer to the core of the tree, you get a lot finer quality wood. So plywood is graded. Generally speaking, it's graded on an A to D, A being the best, D being, I won't say the worst because that's kind of a misnomer, but being of the least pure quality. And if you can get A grade plywood in birch, that's quite good. B tends to be about the best you can get, and as you might expect, the higher the grade, the more expensive the wood is. What I've just sort of found is some, as I mentioned, some poplar grade plywood, which is actually graded as AA, so you always get 2 letters in that scale. That describes the face side and the back side. So this plywood, for example, is, I think it's BC, so one side is grade B, the other side is grade C on the big sheet that these things were cut out of. So on a small piece like this you might not notice a difference, but on the big sheets, so this is a BC, whereas the poplar I've got is an AA. It's top quality on both sides, so again I'm looking forward to just seeing what I can do with that. Now then, this area here around the muzzle is where the white and the black fur sort of comes together. So I'm being somewhat arbitrary as to where I start and cross the mark, so that I've got the opportunity to sort of show that the white and the black merging with each other. Probably won't come out really well because it's quite a difficult thing to maintain, is something the width of a white hair. But essentially I don't really want to have a solid thick line like you can sort of see here. It's a fairly clean line. I want this to be quite rough. Then when I finish this piece, what I possibly may do is take a sharp scalpel and just scrape some lines into this just to break up the edge as well. And that will then look like white hairs poking through the black hairs, which is you can see on the reference image. So now, fortunately though, this is quite a long job doing this, as you might imagine. I'm not actually painting or marking in every single hair, because they're, it's just not, this tool just isn't that fine. But I am going to put in what represents a heck of a lot of them. And that's going to go right. So I'm just maintaining the angles and working out where the right angle for the fur, because I want to come just outline around here, and I have to sort of, just as I mentioned before, make sure the fur is going in the right direction. And this fur around here is quite long as well, relatively speaking. It's a short-haired cat, so, but you know, the fur is probably in the order of an inch long, and it's laid flat and laid, so there's quite long strokes involved, whereas up really around the nose it's maybe a millimetre or two long. So I'm going to be using longer strokes when I do the hair as we get further away from the nose, just so that you actually get that impression when you're looking at the finished piece. And again, it's that salt and pepper effect on the outside where the black and the white come together a little bit. Sometimes you can actually get a fairly straight, clean edge with black and white fur, but sometimes, like as you can see around, as I say, the face here, the black and the white merge together to give you sort of a speckled or salt and pepper effect. Or rather, it would, if a fella had a beard that looked like this, it'd be called salt and pepper. Yes. Again, it's just I wouldn't say you need patience to do this, because it's and a lot of people imagine that you do, but it kind of doesn't work that way. When you're doing something like this, patience is needed when things aren't going as you want them to go. That's when you need patience. When you're doing this, it looks like I need to be patient because I'm apparently not making a lot of progress. It's taking quite a long time to develop the image, and you know, people would imagine that needs patience. Sometimes you kind of wish it went faster, and I can actually make this faster. I can turn the heat up and I can move the tool faster to compensate, but it doesn't actually make a great deal of difference, because it still takes an appreciable amount of time to do it, even if I heat the tool up. But the difference is that I'm not really patience doesn't really come into it, because I'm making progress. Every time I put this tool down on the wood, I'm making a mark, and so I'm making progress, and generally patience is required when you're not. So I'm seeing sort of slow but steady progress, and it's one of these things that after a couple of hours you'll look at it and you've done a lot more than you actually might feel. But areas like just down, there's a bit down here which isn't taking colour quite as nicely as I would like it to do. And that's when frustration might step in, and that's when patience is required, so that you don't necessarily do something silly like turn the heat up as far as it go and touch the pen and to the surface, and you get this really dark blob, which then is very difficult to deal with. Okay. Again, I'm just looking at the image, dotting around it a little bit. I'm trying to work from the outside in, because that's the way the fur lies over the top of each other, at least for this first layer. Once I've done the first layer, it's less of a problem. I've established most of the angles and the layering effect, so that when I go over it again, it doesn't really have much. It doesn't really create much impact in terms of the shape, as long as I follow the marks I've already made. Now there are some really excellent pyrographic artists around. You can find them reasonably easy on YouTube. If if you search for pyrography, there's quite a lot which is advertising more than an artist, so they're advertising or effectively showing you how to use a particular manufacturer's tool on behalf of the manufacturer. But there are, there's still excellent artists and still well worth looking at those things. Just bear in mind that they're advertising a particular tool. But other than that, one of the most excellent artists I've come across is I think Jean Buick, I think it is, or Buick. If you look for her, she generally, you'll see time-lapse versions of the art that she does, because these things do take several hours or tens of hours, and some of the artwork that Jean produces is absolutely phenomenal in terms of the detail and in terms of the colouring that's applied, monochrome colouring, but shading that's applied. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in pyrography or at least watching it, to check her out on the internet, on YouTube specifically, I guess. There are also artists, if you again just doing a general pyrography search, that you will find there's at least one that I come across who I can't actually recall at the moment, but does pyrography on really large sheets of wood with a blowtorch. So instead of using a little tiny tool like this, he's using a dirty great big I was about to say industrial blowtorch, but a fairly heavy duty gas torch, and creating amazing scenes from that as well. That's he's working on large sheets of wood, so it's not something this small. If you try to do with the blowtorch something this small, you wouldn't get very good quality out of it, because the blowtorch is quite a large flame, so you need to work on a bigger canvas. But again, amazing to watch. Now, of course, you can just watch me, but I'm not about to use a blowtorch, I'm afraid. That's over the top of his head there. We're coming across this. I'm working out the angles, so we are horizontal, roughly around the eye, so this is going to come in this sort of direction. So right, I'm possibly going to regret what I'm about to do, but I'm about to try and create just an angle, a line across here at the right angle, just to help me visualize the fur direction. Trying to do that. That's not too bad. Trying to do that. Trying not to make it too prominent, because if I'm not careful, that line will be visible for quite a long time, and it'll take quite a lot of work to actually get rid of the line. So I do have to be a little bit wary of doing blocks like that. It's better to do a line as I've done here rather than a line like this. So if I try and do blocks like this, I end up with hard edges. So it's better to try and do a full width or a full arc of when you're doing this sort of thing. It's so dark. It's really difficult. I'm kind of using this other picture here as well, just to give me an idea of what the fur angles will be. They're not going to be identical. The positions are slightly different, and they're different cats, and each cat has its own particular fur patterns, but they're similar enough to be able to assist me in what I'm trying to understand in doing this. for some reason this cable seems to be acting as though it wants to wrap around my hand. Tell you what, I've probably got a twist in it. There we go. Right. So just lots and lots of fur. Now if I make sure I move reasonably slowly with this tool, it will actually get dark. This edge that's here at the moment is quite light. As I say, as I've said before, it's not fantastically a problem like that, because the intention is to go over it at least once or twice to create the colour that I want. Now that in itself might seem a little bit wasteful, but there is a as I've mentioned, there is a few reasons for it. One is I like the control that gives me. It's easier to darken something by going over it a second time than it is to lighten it if you've made it too dark. The second is it creates a depth of colour as well, which if you do it all in one go you don't get, or it's a lot harder to achieve a depth of colour. And in terms of texturing as well, you might be able to see there's it's not showing up greatly, but you might just be able to see there's kind of like 3 lines here, and it's really difficult. What that is I'm starting and finishing in the same place, and so the start and end tend to, because they're bunched together, tend to appear to be darker, and then it sort of looks like, I don't know, somebody's cut the cat's fur in a very odd way. So just by going over it again, I can then start and finish in a different place and smooth out that the highlights and lowlights that have been created. The other thing I can do is try to remember to start and finish in different positions as well, so that I don't get that effect. But it's actually quite difficult to do, to be random about where you put the tool down. It's if you have a pencil, try it yourself. Try and colour in a square in relatively small strokes, but without starting and finishing in the same place every time. But because of the fur texture, I need to start at one side and work towards the other. So if you try that yourself with a pencil, you'll probably find yourself doing exactly the same thing, and it's really hard to be quite random about it so you don't create these ridge-like effects. And if you can do it, well done. For me it takes practice, and I need more practice. The fact that I can multi-layer this makes it easier for me. Right. Now then, the base of the ear is about here. So, because the fur kind of changes direction somewhat around the ear, just because the ear sticks up, so there's hair which is going into the ear across his forehead here, but then comes around the ear along the side. And I will actually need to put in the edge of the ear, which is quite a dark, smooth area, because right on, generally speaking, the very edge of the ear itself is either got no hair or it's got little tiny fine hairs, so it looks very silky like. So I don't want any big hairs crossing that the boundary there, so which is why I want it to know roughly where the ear stops, because then I know where I can cross that line, or cross where the line would be if it continued. Again, it's just all about a realistic looking image. I think I will turn this height up just a little bit. And just see if it's coming a little bit. I'm probably working a bit too fast, but it seems to be what I'm naturally working at tonight. So to compensate for that, I've just turned the heat of this tool up a little bit, and I may need to turn it up a little bit more because it's kind of a bit too light for a first pass. It's as I say, it's quite all right to do that because I can just go over multiple times. And that will, create depth and create a better fur structure, but I don't want to be doing it 10 or 15 times, so I do want a first layer, sort of like this sort of colour would be ideal to start with. And that's because I do know that this is going to go as not necessarily as dark as I can possibly get it, but it is going to go really dark. The interesting thing about monochrome images like this is, looking at this other cat for example here, you almost certainly read his fur as being black, and I mean the camera doesn't help a little bit because it's darkening it down, but it's a black cat, and you're quite happy to believe that's a black cat even though the colour that you're looking at isn't black. You kind of read that as being what's expected. I mean, you're looking at the pupil of the eyes, you will almost certainly be seeing those as jet black, and this colour therefore is very close to it. And in actual fact, there's a significant difference between these two, but your eye is kind of fooled because of what it's expecting to see. So you don't actually, even though it's a black cat, you don't actually have to go black. You can get very dark and still it will still look as you intend it to do. Colour, shade, and what colours are next to each other can have really significant effects when you're viewing images, and create lots and lots of optical illusions. It is even possible to make white look like black, and you kind of can't really imagine that. And possibly, if you recall, probably about a month ago there was a lot of internet controversy over a particular dress as to what colour it was, and different people saw completely different colours from the same photograph, and it effectively was an optical illusion. Depending on how your eyes saw the relative colours to each other, your eyes were actually effectively telling your brain it was seeing a different colour, or your brain was telling you were seeing a different colour. Probably wasn't your eyes per se, but it's how your brain interpreted the colours. Then that there is about the edge of this, so I can now do some fur that crosses that boundary. Again, I'm just trying to, because I've got a transition from going over the head that way here, and as I move over, I've got to transition to moving in completely the opposite curve to the one that I start over the head. But those of you who are watching, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to say hello in the chat. I know it's a little quiet in there tonight. I'm kind of wondering if it's actually broken, but I don't think so. But there again, you never know with Twitch chat. So if you have been asking or saying hello in chat and I've not been responding, nothing is actually showing up at my end here. So if you have been saying something in chat, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not seeing anything. Don't think there's anything wrong with it, but if you are lurking, that is okay. You don't need to say anything if you don't wish to do so. Quite happy for you to continue with whatever it is that you're doing whilst you watch. The colour is interesting because I'm kind of wondering if these two pieces, when they came out of the larger sheet that they were cut from, were in this sort of position to each other, because I'm having a problem here getting a tone, a darkish tone, and I had exactly the same problem when I did this other plaque in exactly the same area, and it's almost as though there's a section of the tree around here where the sap colour the sap that's in it just doesn't want to colour or to come out and get coloured. So it's looking at the moment very light. In fact, it kind of makes, at the moment, it's kind of like looking as though the cat's got a 6 o'clock shadow, which is an English term for somebody who hasn't shaved all day. So it's a curve. Got to get that curve in so that, yeah. I'm kind of itching to fill the curve in, but I know if I do that, then I'm going to create these block looking effect. That'll take a lot of work to get rid of in the final piece. So despite my efforts here, I'm still getting these blobs. And actually that's, well, it is down to me, but it's also the tool is not necessarily helping a little bit, because as I hold the tool off the wood, it heats up, and it heats up fairly quickly. I mean, this tool heats up from cold to working temperature in about 2 or 3 seconds, and as I hold it off the wood, the tool heats up, so the instant it makes contact, it makes a darker mark which sucks the heat away. And then as I continue moving the tool, the mark tapers off in colour, and I don't really want to have all these dots, but it's something I am. There's techniques that I'm using here to try and avoid it, but it's just down to thermodynamics. The technique I'm using to try and avoid it is, before I touch the tool to the wood, it's moving. I touch it and keep moving at the same speed, and I lift off and keep the tool moving. It's quite a subtle difference, which you probably can't see on stream, but the intention of that is because you actually get, the colour is dependent on how long the heat is applied. If I touch it down and then start moving, there's a fraction of a second when it's not moving, and that applies more heat than that fraction later when it is moving across the wood, so you get the blob. If I move the tool and then touch it down whilst it's still moving, I get less of a blob, because the tool is at a constant rate. It doesn't sit in one particular space very long. And then we're just down to the thermal dynamics of the fact that it heated up whilst it wasn't touching the wood. So it's you still get the mark, but it's a lot less than it would be, and it is controllable from the point of view of the next layer that I put on. I can fill in the gaps. Hullock Hall. Good. Sorry, Hullock. Yeah, Hullock Hall is how I would pronounce that. Good evening. Welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for saying hello. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. And thank you very much for proving that Twitch chat is at least working. It's been a little bit quiet in chat tonight. I think there's a few people that are lurking, which is quite alright. But I was beginning to think Twitch was having another of its evenings off and deciding it wasn't going to send out chat conversations. So I hope you've had a good day. Hullock Hall it is. Ah, okay. Yeah, I'm not even sure. You can't use underscores, I don't think, can you? You might be able to use a dash, but yeah, it makes it look odd. One way to do it is I'm going to say if either you have or Twitch has capitalised it on the second message there, so it looks a bit better to read. So I trust you've had a good day, or having a good day, depending on the time zone that you're in. I'm in the UK, so it's evening for me at the moment, 9 PM in the UK. And this is a piece which I started yesterday, and it will actually take several days to complete. And this really is just as well as applying the heat to create the colour, I'm actually creating a texture as well, which resembles cat fur or hair. If anybody has any questions, then feel free to ask them. I don't mind. Not only about pyrography, you will actually see me on streams doing a couple of other things. I have been doing relief carving, which I finished earlier this week, the latest piece that I had on the go. And I also I've also started scraper board as well, which is also interestingly a monochrome art form of white on black, which can create some really interesting images. And I've done exactly one piece in that so far, and I'm learning as I go. So day started cold, but got quite warm. Okay, some haircut. I can kind of understand that one. It started the opposite way where I am. I'm up in Yorkshire in the UK, and it started as quite a warm, sunny day, and gradually as the day wore on, it got cooler, and the sun was sort of not quite as strong. But it's still been a very, very pleasant day, and it is still quite warm. I mean, whilst I haven't got any windows open here, and I am using a fairly large light to the left of me, it's 25 degrees here in the studio at the moment, which is Celsius. That's probably around 80 Fahrenheit. So do you do any form of artwork or craft work, Holocaust, or are you just interested in seeing what's going on in the creative section and seeing what the various people are doing? It's quite an interesting area. There's lots generally going on most nights, and a heck of a range of crafts that you see being done. I think tonight I've seen people making chainmail, cross stitch. I know later on there'll be people sculpting with clay and with a wax-like clay material. There was people creating 3D images, screen printing t-shirts. Yeah, I think the weather like, well, for us in the UK, weather's like that, like we've had today, can also be a little bit like that, in that it can be cold, but if you put a coat on, you're too hot, and you end up sweating and what have you. And even if you sort of open the coat up so that you cool down, you still end up sweating. We get some really weird effects like that. Alternatively, it could just be me. Okay. Well, in that case, then I hope my English is comprehensible to you. Of course, like any native speaker, we do tend to speak rather fast, and I know that can make listening to it from a second language perspective as quite awkward and difficult. Well, as a general rule, I do try and, whilst I'm streaming, I do try and talk slower than I normally do. That's a learned behaviour. I used to teach people some technical subjects, and when you're talking very rapidly like you would in a conversation, it actually makes it difficult for people to follow you in a lecture situation. So I've learnt to slow down, and also by slowing down I've learnt to leave out a lot of the fillers that English people put in, and that's words like and and things like that, which are just verbal fillers because they're speaking faster than they're thinking, and they need to insert something because they don't like the silence whilst they think of the next word. So I've learnt to avoid doing that as well. Hopefully that makes it a bit easier for you to follow. But you might not realise, but a lot of people have said my voice is kind of soothing and has a tendency to make them sleepy. So you may wish to be careful. You may end up finding that you are waking up when you hadn't realised you'd been asleep. And I stress, they've said that about my voice, not about what they're watching on stream. But if they had said about that it was what they were seeing on stream, it kind of wouldn't surprise me. These sorts of crafts or art forms take a reasonably long length of time to develop. I'm going to be doing most of this cat's face, and this evening I have really just done this amount of area so far and a little bit down the nose, and that's in over an hour of stream, and it's by no means the only pass that I will do over this section of the face. So it does take a while to see results on stream. And I think a lot of the creative streamers do find that to be a difficult thing for them to deal with. That often people who have seen some crafts done before, they've seen them done on YouTube where the time lapse is used a lot, and the time lapse of course creates a false impression of how quickly something takes. And I know quite a few people have said to me in streams, why is it taking so long? And in actual fact, it's probably going faster than it normally would. Oh, was it you that said that the first time? I know somebody said it to me the first time. In fact, they used a term which I didn't understand at the time. So, welcome back then, if it was indeed you, Holocol. Glad to see you back. That probably means that you saw me doing this other picture which I finished, and you've maybe not seen what I've done in the meantime. But I've got another area of wood here, just in this area here, which doesn't take the colour very well. What you find when you're doing this is you develop a rhythm with something in an area like this. When you come to a bit of wood which doesn't quite do what you expect, and I'm getting a little white spot here, it breaks that rhythm, and I say the wood is being difficult or it's been a bit awkward. In actual fact, it's just one of those things that I have to deal with as the artist, so to speak. And it's not actually awkward, it just means I've got to slow down and change the rhythm slightly. But it kind of sometimes throws you out of the moment. When you get into a rhythm of doing things like this, it gets very, a word that often gets used is therapeutic, but you get lost in what you're doing and you just carry on and don't realise quite the time is passing, and then something like that just throws you out of it and you start having to think again, as opposed to almost working it on an automatic pilot. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you've managed to visit had an opportunity to visit in between, but having done this particular pussycat, we then did I'll show you. Let me just put that to one side. And good evening, Bubbles the Monkey. How are you this evening? We then did a scraper board, which is the very first time. I don't know if you saw that, but this is a piece that I did on scraper board. This is the very, very, very first piece of scraper board I've even touched, and that was the image that we did of a musician who has been in the UK charts and international charts. So a guy called John Miles, not been in the charts for a while because he's progressed his music career in a different direction. So we did that, and after that we did a piece of carving, which has then been painted after that. But we've got a rose that was carved out of ash on stream and then painted, which we did the night before last. And then we started another cat piece this evening. This is one I've been asked to do to go with this one. So these two cats live with each other. I'm fine, thank you, Bubbles the Monkey. Thank you, by the way, for that link for the that bead thing. It looked good, so I've ordered a kit. I was fascinated by it before, but I ordered the large kit because it wasn't too expensive, and I was interested to have a go with it. So thank you very much for letting me have that link yesterday. I will. Has yours arrived yet? Because I believe you had ordered you mentioned you'd ordered a kit. Because I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what you make of it. I am going to go back over this little bit. It's it's bugging me a little bit that it's coming out so light. So I'm going to go back over it in the opposite with the piece upside down, just to darken it down a little bit, because I am not quite seeing the piece as I would like to see it. It's throwing my visualization off a little bit, and the banding that I've created is also making that a little bit awkward for me. So what I've done is turning the piece the other way up, which is this way, and I'm going to just go over it again, turning it over, because what's happening, in fact it was the other way, what's happening is I'm creating a groove, but I'm only putting colour on one side of the groove, so that's why you're getting this somewhat lighter effect. So if I go over with the wood the opposite direction, what I will then do is colour the other side of the groove, and it will darken off quite a bit fairly quickly, and I should then also be able to get rid of the banding effect. Now I got the full colour one to start with, I thought. So I did look at the grayscale one. The grayscale was kind of a limited colour palette rather than a grayscale, but no, I have no objection to the grayscale, but I kind of would like to just see how I get on doing full colour things, which is kind of surprising given that I've been doing a lot of monochrome work. You might think the grayscale would be something that attracted me, but I might try it later. What did surprise me is I've looked at the other bead manufacturers, and these beads are relatively cheap compared with some of the others. I don't know if that's just because, of course, these are in Europe and the others are sourced from elsewhere, but if you're wondering what we're talking about, hollow core, we're talking about, well, most people know them, I guess, as perler beads. I've kind of seen a few people doing them on Twitch, bead work, and then iron the beads to fuse them together. And it kind of fascinated me because I am interested in art made up of pixels. So you actually see the dots, so to speak, and the bead forms interested me because of that. And Bubbles last night gave me a link to a particular application that can be used to translate a picture into the patterns, and the manufacturer that was able to also supply the beads. So I'm looking forward to when that arrives in several days' time. To seeing, well, I may or may not do the first one on stream, we shall see. What I will have to do is think of a suitable subject to try it with. I'm not one necessarily for doing things easy, so I'll probably pick a really awkward pattern. Yeah, light pinks and colours, yeah, that's what I saw. Oh, okay. Holocaust, yeah. There seem to be quite a few people doing it, and I've seen quite a few YouTubers as well. That's kind of what I know. What seemed to have picked up on Bubbles was that the perler stuff seemed to melt the best, and I'd been looking for a lot of that, but as you note there, it does seem quite expensive. Probably, I guess, because it seems, I'm not sure where it's manufactured, but it's predominantly states based is where most of the suppliers seem to be, and very few in Europe at all. And Hammer, of course, yes, and there's another one as well that I can't recall now that seemed to be used quite a bit, so this would kind of make four Yes, go ahead, Bubbles, that will be acceptable. You know, Holocall, by the time you finish watching creative streams, you'll be inspired to try some of the art forms yourself. You know, you won't be able to help yourself. You'll be brainwashed into some of the artwork. Okay, that's a long link. Oh, grayscale. Okay. By which I mean I actually can't tell what it is. Is it intended to represent something, or is it just an abstract design? Bubbles, it could be that I just can't visualize it. It sort of seems to have a structure to it. That first thing I thought of was a mask, but it's not. And are those clear beads? I must have missed seeing clear beads. I guess they're from one of the other ranges, are they? I know this particular manufacturer, they seem to suggest just using double-sided sticky tape, and I thought, I can see them dropping off after a little while if it's in a warm room. And I see looking at that there, you iron these, don't you? They look to be fused to me anyway. Tell us a little bit more about it. How do you actually find working with them? I've seen people picking up the beads and putting them in place by hand. I've seen people using tweezers. Have you developed any particular useful technique for doing it? I see you've got the tweezers there, or I have seen. I think it was the Perler where they've developed, or Perler seller, a bead placer, and I thought that thing looks harder to use than using your fingers. Okay, I don't watch. Daft as it sounds, I've got Final Fantasy X for probably a PlayStation or PlayStation 2, which is quite a long time ago, but I've never played it. I've never actually seen Final Fantasy X, so that's why I'm not actually recognising it then. So thank you for letting me know. Oh, these are 2.6mm. Okay, rather than the 5. They're the hammer ones, aren't they? The 2.6. I haven't seen any manufacturer do other than them that seem to do those small ones. Because I kind of like the idea of the small ones because you get more pixels per inch basically, and that strikes me for the sort of thing that I'd be interested in doing, which is a picture, like the rose or a scene, photography, whether it's I design it or not, but it strikes me the 2.6 I get more pixels in and therefore have a clearer looking picture in the same size. So I was kind of looking at those 2.6, but it looks relatively expensive to obtain a decent palette of colours to start with. But I've sort of looked at them and kept going and not quite pushing the button to buy them. I must admit I didn't actually intend to get any of these beads until later on this year when I've got a bit more space in the studio, but the price was extremely tempting for what was quite a large quantity of beads in those starter kits. Oh, I've not heard of Art Cal. Oh, I can see I've got a lot to learn, haven't I? Of all the different manufacturers around, as well as the no-named brands as well, I guess. Starter kit for... Oh, okay. I was about to say, I haven't really seen any, but I actually think probably our only local craft shop. I think I've seen some of the those like small kits, 50 bead type kits, and with a heart-shaped pegboard, but that's all. Do you find them particularly difficult to iron? Well, I'm about to say, it strikes me as it's probably just a case of needing the patience to keep the heat going and etc. until you've achieved the right effect. But patience seems, having discussed patience and things like I'm doing here earlier this evening, it struck me as a bit funny to say that. When a lot of people that I've read about seem to have a great deal of problem with the ironing and actually getting them to melt, and I'm not quite sure whether that's just people's aversion perhaps to using hot irons for things like that, or whether it really is down to something inherent in doing it. Okay, and there you go, you've mentioned an SES brand. That's another one I've not heard of. I guess if you lump all the manufacturers together, you've probably got an immense range of in the colour palette that you could actually use, but then maybe you have a difficulty if they use slightly different plastics, getting them all to merge. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I have seen some, don't know what beads they were, but where they have virtually gone square. As you say, the hole's virtually closed up, and they've gone square rather than being just a fused bead. But I guess that comes from actually applying the pressure, doesn't it? Because the heat will be transferred. Once you've got enough heat on one side, if you push down too hard, then I guess it impacts on the other side. Interesting. I'm kind of looking forward to it. If I can find something that I want to do, that is. I can probably just as easily leave it in its box for a few months as well if I don't actually find something, because I know me, it's going to be a case of I've got to find an image that's worthy of doing, and I don't want to waste the beads until I do. And I know it's not like that at all. It's not wasting. It's but it's it's a joke that I make about myself, which is, being a Yorkshireman, the definition of a Yorkshireman is a tight-fisted Scotsman. And if anybody's not familiar with that terminology, the Scots it's an archetype that they are very frugal. They don't spend money on anything. Like any archetypes, it's not true, but it's just one of those things. And tight-fisted is a way of saying they're frugal. They don't spend money unnecessarily. So a Yorkshireman being a tight-fisted Scotsman is just exaggerates the joke a little bit. But I am somewhat like that sometimes with art materials. I don't want to use them unless I've got something that's worthy. And of course, the worthy bit means I expect to get a good result, but I haven't been able to practice because I'm saving the material, so I know I'm not going to get a good result the first or second time or whatever, and it's counterproductive, but it's still a very difficult thing for me to overcome within myself. Oh yeah, no, there was to some extent, Bubbles the monkey, there was no way I was going to buy the mixed sets. I really am not into sorting. I mean, I guess it's part of the fun sometimes of the medium, is it? Doing things like that, but it really struck me as something I would possibly not enjoy doing. Although, having said which, I suppose I could just as easily just sit down and do it, but when they're available pre-sorted in bags, then I kind of not. I'd rather get on with the artwork than sort out the materials, but it's something I hadn't thought about. But yeah, I've got plenty of toothpicks, as you saw on the stream when I was painting. Don't have a problem with toothpicks. I've got a 3D printer in a box, which I literally haven't got the space to put, never mind construct it. But I keep thinking of was there a way in which I could actually create a scoop or something which would at least line all the beads up so that to put them on a pegboard you could fairly easily drop them in, well, no matter what size they were. And that's probably going to be a fun in quotes project for next winter. See if I can do something like that. Because I can imagine the action of picking a bead up, putting it down, picking a bead up, putting it down. It actually gets quite tiring on your hands and arms. Oh, that's contract out the sorting in exchange for a coffee. That seems like a really good deal, Bubbles the monkey. Does that? Not sure any of my neighbours would be that interested, but and actually, I suppose if you get 2 or 3 of you doing it, because you can hold a conversation quite easily while you're doing it. It's not like you're trying to watch a program or a stream and sort at the same time, and you're having to look up and down. If you're in a group and you're all doing that, then yeah, I can see that actually being quite fun to do. Now this is successfully going darker brown, which I'm really pleased about, and I'm losing the tram lines. Oh, 22,000 beads. Yeah, the quantities creep up on you, don't they? I mean, you just one of those panels, 30 by 30, is 900 beads, effectively close to 1,000 beads on one panel, and the numbers just really creep up on you. As soon as you take 4 of those panels, you're talking close to 4. Well, I know it's 3,600, but close to 4,000 beads, and it's just amazing numbers. Yeah, I'm just thinking. I was just thinking. I wondered how much I'd have to pay my wife to actually sort a bucket. I don't think I've got that much money. Or if I did, I don't think I'd be able to afford to buy anything else. Ah, dear. A lot of people that I've seen doing it on a lot of people. There's about 2 people I've seen doing it on doing beads on Twitch, and I've seen a few YouTube videos that people have recorded them, just recorded them doing it. It's just like you'd record a stream, and a lot of them seem to prefer to do 3 or 4 items and then iron them and fuse them. Bubbles to Monkey, I mean, do you find that, or is it, or are you doing them one piece at a time? I'm guessing if it's a big piece, then you kind of have to do it one at a time. But sorry to exclude anybody else that's on the stream. Yeah, feel free to drop in and on chat. Tell us if you do any artwork for yourself, or you are doing any of this bead work. And Holocall, sorry if I appear to be excluding. It's just a subject which interests me, but by all means join in and tell us what you might like to see on streamed on Twitch in terms of creative art. It's going to be interesting to see try the application out and see just how well it renders random pictures, because I've noticed on some of the ones that are online or free, they very carefully select the pictures that they use to illustrate the application. They unless you use something of that particular style, wedding pictures for some reason seem to be one that they use a lot. If you take any other sort of high colour object, for example, then they come out really bad. So it's going to be interesting. And good evening, 3D bloke. I'm not online. Oh dear, maybe that's why it's been quiet tonight. Twitch is playing up, but you're following me on Twitter. I noticed that. I was thinking, who on earth's this person? And then I realised it was a Twitter follower, and then I saw who it was. Actually, was. So I guess you didn't have a Twitter feed up. I think Twitch really should sort out notifications. And if it's, it seems to be a common complaint, doesn't it, that Twitch doesn't notify people very very well. I don't know whether the big streamers don't have a problem with it, or whether they're so they're so scheduled, so to speak, that everybody just knows that they're going to be on anyway, and so they don't notice things like that. Anybody who's in stream, by the way, check out 3D Bloke. He does some amazing airbrush work. Quite a lot of, at the moment, quite a lot of monochrome work, which is two of the things that attracted me to his stream. In fact, he was airbrushing, which is something that I do, and therefore I was interested. And the fact that he was doing monochrome. I think you were doing the Xenomorph when the first stream I saw, and I'm really interested in monochrome as well. But he is an excellent artist. He generally streams during the week from 10 o'clock at night, but unfortunately, unless you've changed your mind free, you're not you're taking the night off tonight, I understand. If I'm wrong, please let me know, because then I can watch you as well. Yeah, I don't have notifications set up on Twitter either, and certainly not on the PC. I don't run anything like TweetDeck or anything like that. I must admit, I'm not particularly into tweeting as such. I can understand, some people that do, but I don't tend to have those short conversations with people like Twitter encourages. I just tend to read the synopsis a few days later. Okay, yeah, back on Monday. So anybody who's watching, check out 3D Bloke on Monday, 10 p.m. in the UK time, which would normally be about half an hour from now. So wherever you are, if you look at your clock, normally during the week, half an hour from now, 3D Bloke will be broadcasting airbrush, or sometimes actual real paintbrush. Sounds weird saying a real paintbrush, because an airbrush is a real brush, and even an electronic brush is a real brush. But anyway, a physical brush, sometimes he does some quite amazing work in that as well, in his own unique style. We haven't managed to interest you in doing any beadwork, have we, 3D Bloke? Okay, I'm still using the London one. Maybe that's why my stream's okay at the moment, because everybody's moved over to Amsterdam. Actually, just thinking about it, I was kind of half joking about the beadwork free, but your wrap pack, that style would work quite well in beads. Because of that fairly large chunky grayscale that you use there. Yeah. It's interesting, I was supposed to be at work this afternoon, and I was at work this afternoon, but I was doing some activities that took quite a long time to do, and they were running by themselves, and whilst they were running I got nothing to do. I couldn't really use the computer for anything else, so I spent this afternoon looking at one of the suppliers, actually, Bubbles to Monkey, of those beads. It turned out to be, well, they've got an English distributor, but they were a Danish company, and I was looking through there and looking at things like the stuff that they sell, because they're a wholesaler as well, and things like glass mosaics and the square mosaic beads in quotes, in glass and plastic, and quite a few other things. I was looking at some of their wood stuff that they do, jewellery boxes, plain jewellery boxes, for example, which small ones, but they're meant to be decorated or painted or put pyrography on, things like that, and rolling pins. And I started looking at all sorts of stuff that was on there. I started looking at glass objects, for engraving into, or even some of the metal objects, and I spent this afternoon looking at art materials, thinking, oh, what can I do with that? And hey, there I could get some. Interestingly, they had a lot of canvases. I don't know what the canvases were, but in terms of quality, but things like something like 40 A4 canvases for about 30 quid type of thing. I've got a feeling they're about 120, so that's probably about 60 quid, but it struck me as they didn't look too bad in price, so they did get more expensive as they get up to your size. But I started looking at that. I'm kind of, as I was mentioning earlier, I'm kind of don't want to waste the big canvases I've got on something to practice on. So maybe I should get some of these little ones. Yeah, kid in the sweet shop, isn't it? Really, with some of them. I mean, there's some of them I look at and go, especially sort of some of the online ones. I'm trying to think now. Who's the big, the nationwide craft store in the UK? I can't actually remember its name now. But I kind of walk in there and go, they've got the odd interesting thing, but some of the online stores, I will easily spend hours just looking at everything, even stuff I'm not fantastically interested in. But it just sparks ideas and thinking. I was looking at wooden beads, 2-inch across wooden beads, diameter wooden beads, and thinking, I could do pyrography on a 2-inch wide wooden bead, but then it's kind of like, why? What would I do on a 2-inch wide wooden bead? And why would that be? Why shouldn't I use a flat plaque, for example? And it's thinking, maybe a jewellery box. You can sort of understand why you might want to do that, but a 2-inch wide bead, and think, hey, that's fun, and they're cheap, and you can get lots of them. But what would I do with it? Glass bottles, and just glass. In fact, I was looking at glass sheets, square. They're 15 centimetres square, so it's about 6 inches square glass sheets with a stand. And I was thinking, they weren't a bad price, relatively speaking. Expensive because you can just go out and buy a big sheet of glass, but as a pre-cut ground edge glass. And I was looking, thinking, I could get some of those, and it's kind of like, why? What do I want to do with it? Okay, I apologise. How does exactly as you've done it? Yes, as 3D Bloke says there, the UK unit of currency, that and the penny. So that's the lowest of the big unit of currency, in case anybody wasn't aware. Yeah. Yeah, they do, don't they? The googly eyes. Oh, there's a streamer, Marathi, who has a couple of those googly eyes on. He calls it a rathling, but it's a creature with big googly eyes on there, and that whenever I see him online and see his his avatar or whatever you want to call it, his profile square, always reminds me of those big googly eyes. He's got the name from licking eyeballs, but that's a different story. But the eyeballs are his Twitch. I hesitate to say gimmick, but you know what I mean. It's one of the things that make him unique on Twitch. Got to be careful. I'm spending more time talking now than I am doing artwork. Yeah, I've got lots of bits and pieces. I've got a bag full of wool here. Yeah, like I must have about 3 balls of wool for carpet making. I made a rug for somebody for a present, and never having made a rug before, I went out and I knew I wanted some colours like white and brown, and not knowing how much I bought quite a few balls of wool, so I've got a bag full of it here. I made the rug, which is a sizable rug, about 2 or 3 foot square, and I used 1 ball of wool each, And it's kind of like, I've got all this extra wool now, what do I do with it? Oh, yeah, that one strikes me as a bit... indeed, yes, Holocaust, it can, I suppose. It can be fun to talk about art and talk about how to do things and stuff like that, and about the ideas and stuff. Yeah, that stream, I recall seeing that one free, and it struck me as a bit creepy. I wasn't comfortable with that image. Yeah. The only thing Holocaust about talking about it is, of course, Twitch is a visual medium. I suppose you can get on with other things at the same time. I do that a lot during the day. I will listen to streams rather than watch them, but they still have to have an interesting video for some reason. Time to take up knitting. I can knit free. I don't need to take it up. I have done it. I have been able to knit for 40 years now. I haven't done any for about 20 years, but I can knit. Multi-skilled, you see. I can also use a crochet hook, and what's another one? I can do embroidery. I do all sorts of stuff. Now, it's the production of the image. I mean, knitting's about clothing more than anything. I've never tried actually knitting an image. That might be an interesting thing to do, but some of the other things, like cross stitch, and which I can also do in embroidery, is about creating images. It's sort of a bit weird. Bit weird. No, that's the wrong word. But I have effectively been creative all my life, and yet people that know me don't really, or have been rather surprised that when I picked up the airbrush, which was the start of artwork, so to speak, they've been rather surprised. But when I actually sort of sit down and think about it, I've been a programmer, which is about creating, it is creative, creating programs and graphical user interfaces. I've designed circuit boards, which is about being creative. I've built radio control model, is about being creative. And when you add all these sorts of things together, I have been creative all my life. It's just not recognised as what would be an artist, Free would have to answer that one, Bubbles. I don't actually know, to be honest. You probably didn't forget it, Free. There is kind of only 2 stitches. Everything else is just variations on it, really. A knit stitch and a purl stitch, which is a backwards knit stitch. So everything else is just all variations on it. And my mum taught me how to do straight knitting, because she knitted a lot. But everything else from there, I've just taught myself, really. And just tried things. So some of the cabling, which is a way of moving the stitches around so it looks like a rope on a knitted garment, is really just knitting things in a different order. Which sort of programming languages, Holocol? Quite a few. The first programming language I learned was on a Commodore PET, which is BASIC, and from there I built my own computer. This is a long time ago, you might imagine, so I learnt 6502 microprocessor machine language, or hex machine language. I never actually got down to the binary. but it's fairly easy to convert between hex and binary. So I was able to actually remember in machine language programming you use mnemonics, CLR, clear register, add a value to a register. Lazy Cactus, thank you very much for the follow, that's most appreciated. And you get, until the next person follows, you get your name on the bottom of the screen there, or until the end of the stream, whichever comes first. So you had these mnemonics, and I did it so much that I actually knew the translation between the mnemonics and the hex code. So I actually wrote in hex code, which proved useful when I was at university, because we did 6802 machine language at university, and the two are very almost identical, that you can use them the same, and I could actually write my homework at university. I didn't write down the questions that we were being given to do for homework. I wrote down the answers, which was quite amusing. But from there I've done all sorts of things. I've done C++, I've played about with C#, I've done a little bit of Fortran. Generally speaking, I can read the languages and understand them. And most of them have almost similar syntax, really. So I can take a program and potentially I can sort of debug them in all sorts of languages. Generally work a lot in Visual Basic these days, just because of the environment at work. It's easier to do that. I'd much prefer to work in something like Java or C#. They'd make a lot of what I do these days, because I do a lot of object orientated work, and most of the time I'm forced to use Visual Basic for applications whose object orientation is and whose inheritance is terrible, or rather there's no such thing as inheritance. They do interfaces. Sorry, I'm talking technical to those other people that don't understand programming. So a fair range of stuff, really. Used to be fascinated. A long time ago I did some COBOL 88, I think it was, or 80, can't remember now. And on quite a few different systems as well. Microprocessors, I do embedded stuff these days sometimes as well. Typically these days it's Arduino with the what's Arduino? It's one of the C variants, I can't remember. Everybody of course just calls it Arduino. But I do some low level stuff often in the other manufacturers' names. You know what, I have real problems sometimes trying to remember names. So kind of get a mix of stuff. Visual Basic is awful. It is and it isn't. It's a very easy language for people who are not really familiar with programming concepts to get into, and to do something fairly useful with it. And being that it's the visual concept and it's based on the message processing of the underlying Windows architecture, they learn encapsulation, and they sort of learn a little bit about object orientation without actually ramming it down your throat, because a button's an object, or it's encapsulated however you wish to describe it, and so you push it and that fires off a process, which can happen at any time. So you learn that concurrency stuff. So I think it's a very useful thing. But stuff like its true object orientation and inheritance of interfaces and things like that is terrible, I agree. Visual Basic itself is better than Visual Basic for applications. C# I've only just started really playing with, but I'm reasonably familiar with Java, so it's a similar concepts again. and I love the extensibility of things like C# and the object extensibility. The only problem I have is deciding what's an object. But and I love microcontrollers. I find it fascinating. I can take something, I've got one in front of me here, take something like that, which is a microprocessor, and the amount of stuff you can get that to do, turn on lights, control heating, or pretend to be a keyboard, is amazing. In fact, I've got a project in front of me. I'll just pull this one out. Here we go. We've gone from art now to a different form of creativity. There's another different microprocessor. This one is an Arduino. So this is a keypad and a joystick. So I've actually just made myself my own. This is actually a controller, and so the Arduino is acting like a controller. I've just built my own Xbox controller, if you like, but this one will light up. It's a bidirectional feed, so if I push a button it will light up. This joystick doesn't act like a joystick, it acts like a key press. If I play some games a lot, the WASD controls, I actually make my fingers sore, so I changed it so I can use a joystick. So W, was it W, D, A and S? And it works like that. And I've got another one around somewhere that works with Euro Truck Simulator, because I can never remember which keys are which. So I've got some buttons which sort of say light, and I press the button and the lights come on, which makes things amazing. But that's something I call physical computing. You do something in the real world and the computer reacts to it, and I find that absolutely fascinating to play with. I don't know COBOL these days, and web design and JavaScript. JavaScript's another one. Lingo I've never played with. I've been doing a lot of work with Microsoft SharePoint, which is XML, XSL, JavaScript comes into it, some Visual Basic Light scripting, Basic Light scripting as well, and you get it's interesting. You want to put something on screen, and you end up having to know about, in SharePoint at least, you end up needing to know about 6 different languages, because CSS comes into it as well. And so there's XML, XSL, there's God, if I was at work I could reel these off, but there's various forms of conversion that go on within the XSL and what have you, and the libraries that you can call on, and then of course JavaScript and CSS, and people go, oh, SharePoint's easy, and it is if you just want to create a list, but if you want to put a nice looking form up there, then it's not so easy. And thank you very much for that. I kind of must finish off that controller. I keep meaning to finish it off, and I keep forgetting. There's too many. I'm streaming too much these days now to do that. The only reason I haven't finished it really is I've got a case for it, and I've cut the holes for the buttons, but I've got to file the holes so that the buttons are free, they don't catch, and just getting around doing that. And I'm quite pedantic about it. I want them to be square and to have straight edges. I really hate a mistake or a wobbly edge around a button, and they don't take a basil. So I want to be really square, really really right angle corners, and I get quite I don't know what the word is, but I will spend hours doing that and doing it slowly so I don't go over too far, and I just finding the time to do it is interesting. Yeah, I kind of, well, I suppose I in some ways I kind of find it fun free. It's frustrating when, well, I mean, especially for me, because I used to do Windows programming, and I know the message, or knew the messages that fly about. Whenever I'm doing anything, whether it's SharePoint, web stuff, or stuff like that, especially for some of the PC-based stuff that I do, I know that Windows can do this. I even know which message it is that's being sent, but can I get the program, the language to do it for me? And I often find myself doing that. I know it can do it, but I just can't find the right incantation. It really is somewhat like that. Is I think sometimes when you're doing some of these things, it's rather like a magical incantation. Possibly. Actually, I haven't really thought about it. I do want to do some more work on not so much that thing there, but some work on programming for the Euro Truck Simulator. Because the idea appeals to me to have a physical. I've got the wheel, and the wheel makes playing that game a heck of a lot easier with the foot pedals and the gear shift. And I'd kind of like to have. Well, I'd find it fun to have the gauges, so the speedo, the tacho, as a physical representation on the desk. You can see it on the screen, so it's a bit meh. And some of the other controls, but I'd really love to be able to flick an indicator stalk, or I want the wipers on, so I actually push a button that say click a button, the wipers come on, and I've only got a couple of that thing there, for example, only takes 6 buttons, so I've only got a few functions just on that, and I'm kind of, that's not what that particular thing was intended for, but I'd kind of like to build one of these things and do that. So that is a programming exercise I want to do, because it's, you've got to write the interface into Euro, so you've got to write the interface that Euro Truck Simulator hooks into, and I actually want to do this as not a network-based interface, so that I can actually run that off something like a Raspberry Pi or just something else. So I'm not actually loading the main computer up with it, and or I can run it on the main computer because it can loop back through the network. But either way, it's something I kind of want to do. But on a stream, it would really be a case of I have no idea what I'm doing, therefore everybody could watch me fail. I don't know really. It's odd. I mean, I know there's quite a few of like the Minecraft modders, for example, who do stream, and quite a lot of people watch them. But what it kind of strikes me as when I've watched some of those streams, they spend more time answering people's questions than actually coding. At least doing artwork here, I do at least get some of it done, even if I end up talking like I'm doing now and forgetting to actually put tool to artwork. Yeah. Possibly, yeah, possibly. And there's, there are a couple of people that have already released tools that do that. I have a habit of wanting to do some things for myself, just so that I understand and I learn, because what I actually enjoy doing is learning. So I always tend to do projects, especially programming projects, that I don't know how to do, and then you learn how to do them as I go along. and yeah, an error message doesn't stop me at that point. It just means that I haven't quite got the incantation correct. But yeah, half the problem of learning languages these days isn't learning the language, it's learning the libraries. I know I've kind of thought about doing, something like a pyrography Minecraft scene or something like that a couple of times, and maybe drop that down into one of the, into the game section. In fact, I was kind of thinking this weekend of maybe during the day, either tomorrow or Sunday, doing I'm kind of itching to try. There's a craft that I do which is called Punchcraft, which is sort of mini rug making, for want of a better description, which I kind of want to do. And I was kind of thinking maybe of streaming that during the day and picking a scene, something like a Minecraft scene, or I don't know, maybe either a picture of Euro Truck or a picture of Train Simulator, and dropping that in and doing that within one of the game sections as well, just to see if we can catch some interest from people that way in crafts. Because Punchcraft is a fairly rapid is a fairly rapid art form once you get going. Holocol, good evening. Thank you very much then for joining us on chat. It's been most interesting, and I've had a great conversation with you. Hope you'll join me on another evening, and have a good night. Because I think possibly to attract some of the gamers free probably needs something which develops fairly quickly. I mean, if the kind of, well, it seems like a lot of the people that watch games, if you see them where somebody doesn't purposely slows down playing the game by some means, they'll either, if it's I don't know, make it up Call of Duty, they'll just go sit in a corner for 10 minutes. I know you can't do that, but that sort of idea, and you get them sort of being very vocal about get on with it and stuff like that. They don't like people pausing the game to talk and things like that. So I was kind of thinking maybe I should try a rapid art form as one that develops fairly quickly, rather than something like this where 2 hours after I started I've done this little bit around here and started coming back. But I don't know, it is something I was thinking of streaming anyway, but just to give myself, it sounds really daft, doesn't it? I'm doing 3 different art forms, and I kind of would like to do something to give me a bit more variety. Yeah, indeed, but I don't know, that when I've watched Danish, some of the stuff that takes weeks is like his Gauntlet, for example, where in one session he's cut out the main glove, and next section he's put the finger straps and the wrist strap on, and then you've seen him cutting out the the little shields, and he's doing lots of them. So, but he's cut one out, and then he's cut another one out, and he's producing a fairly sizable piece in a way. I know that's thumbnail size, but it's a fairly big chunk that he's done, and then he's got a few, and then he's shaping them, and there's a lot of small bits come together to make the big piece. So that's kind of different to, I mean, I'm doing lots of little bits here, but it's not like I've suddenly got a pile of those little shields or anything. I've just got a few more marks on a board. Yeah, the complaining stuff. Yeah. Oh dear. Non-gaming content. Yeah. There's nothing in the. There is literally nothing in the terms and conditions that I could see that says you can't, for example, go into a World of Warcraft category and stream, yeah, Euro Truck Simulator or Train Simulator. There's nothing in the terms and conditions that says you have to be in that section. That is the game that you are playing. I know it kind of almost forces you that way because you pick the game that you're playing, but it's an interesting one. There's nothing that says you can't, and I found the terms and conditions interesting because it says Twitch will allow you to stream game content. It doesn't say that you're not allowed to stream non-game content. So it's kind of that condition is kind of meaningless, and there is nothing there. The only thing it says about not being allowed to stream is, of course, the sexual related content, nudity and violence, these sorts of things. But I found the terms and conditions quite interesting in that respect. In that I say it doesn't say anything about what you can and can't stream, and where you stream it either, for that matter. But I guess a lot of these people that complain probably never read the terms and conditions. I'm one of the rare people, I guess, that do. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Minecraft. A lot of the streamers that I watch play Minecraft, so they're the big ones. Which basically the Forgecraft crew most of the time, I guess. But they quite often would see JB Drawing or Artillery 62, I think it is, on Twitch, broadcasting in there, and I used to watch him quite a lot, doing artwork, because he's a damn good artist, and he's enjoyable to watch, and kind of never really thought about it at the time. It never occurred to me to sort of go, hey, this isn't Minecraft, because quite clearly it was. So I don't know, I'm not quite sure what some people expect, really. I've got some fur stuck to this, and don't know where that first come from, but this pen is hot enough to actually burn. So I've now got the smell of burnt hair. Ah dear. Oh yeah, that whole thing. So how is that progressing now? 3D, 3D. It's I understood it to be complicated. I'm not particularly knowledgeable on it, but I am knowledgeable. No, I have experience of things like copyright and trademark and stuff like that, which is and one or two other areas, and kind of understand. It is a complicated area, and you really have to understand it. But Twitch, yeah. it's to be kind of even-handed about it. I'm not altogether convinced that it's a deliberate act by Twitch, shall we say. It's just very coincidental how things like their own messages get out without any problem, and yet and the messages of the big broadcasters get out without any problem, but the small broadcasters maybe don't. But I think equally, Twitch should work harder so that they don't accidentally give that perception. And half the time, I think it is really just because the big streamers, okay, they bring the money in, and everybody kind of assumes that the money is why Twitch do things, and it's a business. But I also think the big streamers, they've got a lot of people that will instantly complain if they don't get the notification or stuff like that. So if something I don't know, something like Dan's Gaming goes live and the messages don't go out, then all of a sudden 5,000 people suddenly drop a fault message into Twitch's support queues, and they do something about it just because of the volume. And the one from that might come from somebody who follows me is just lost in the ether. Yeah. Well, as you described it, with the other night, it seemed fairly clear cut in that respect. I mean, other streamers may or may not be, but Lost does seem to have the situation covered. She's taken the care to make sure she has the legal coverage for what she does. And then you've got somebody on Twitch who doesn't understand it and is kind of trying to force an inappropriate license to some extent, I guess, upon somebody, which is doesn't actually achieve the objective that they were after, but it ticks the box but leaves them open to the prosecution to some extent by a copyright owner for forcing somebody to have the wrong license. Yeah. I kind of know what you mean. I actually not quite sure what. I mean, TwitchCon seems to be an advertising platform for the big streamers. So you can go to TwitchCon and you can meet the big streamers. They'll be there in person, so you'll be able to see them across the desk, and you'll be able to see more than the camera usually shows. The face and shoulders. You'll be able to see the rest of them. But there again, I'm not particularly one for conventions either. I mean, the Minecraft conventions, for example, is kind of the same thing. If you take it as just a means to get to so people can literally just go see each other, then yeah, I suppose so. But it's I don't know if there's going to be any panels or anything like that there, but some of the ones I've seen for Minecraft when at Minecon is things like how to be a big streamer. Well, it's damned hard work, and I think a lot of people are encouraged by things like that to think, oh, if I just do the right thing, do it in the right way, I'll suddenly be really really famous and as big as Cutie Pie or somebody like that. Yeah, they are they? Oh blimey! I mean, PAX isn't cheap, but there's thousands of square feet of stuff at PAX, or any of the PAXs, and stuff to do, stuff to see, new releases and all this stuff, and I can't see why anybody would want to pay for something that's got, I'll say, a few thousand people. I don't actually know much about TwitchCon, and if they broadcast it as well, then it's kind of yeah, why do I want to pay that much? I don't know. I mean, well, you know as well as I do. I mean, exhibition space or large venue space in London. I was about to say it was relatively expensive, but I was really surprised at just how cheap the Albert Hall is. That's the big round one, isn't it? A few thousand, like £2,000 or £3,000, you can either hire the Albert Hall for the day, and that kind of blew me away, really. Just relatively speaking, how cheap it is. So maybe my thought about London being an expensive place to put a thing like TwitchCon on is sorry, not TwitchCon, Minecon on is kind of fooling myself. I don't know what it compares like to the one that was in the States, because I'd have thought, things like all the travelling expenses to the States would be a lot more expensive than to London for most of the Minecraft staff from the HQ. $75 for TwitchCon. For the weekend, okay. Don't know. It may be one of these things that turns out to be really fantastic, really, really interesting. If Twitch use it to start talking about future plans, capabilities, direction and stuff like that, than if they're just going to start doing, here's Cutie Pie, come and hear him talk about how he became a big streamer, which he quite often. No, I was about to say quite often does on stream. I don't watch him, so I don't know. But some of the other streamers regularly do things like that on stream, anyway. Yeah, they it's expensive for kids, and of course, whilst Minecon's got a really big demographic in terms of people sort of age 3 to 80 or more. It does seem to have a lot of kids, and it does seem to be rather expensive, as you say there, when you need an adult with them. And I think it's something like, isn't it restricted to something like one adult per kid or something like, or one kid per adult, I think. Yeah. I don't know what the London one is going to be like, but when you saw I've kind of only seen bits, obviously, because I didn't go to the one in the last one and the one before that, where they sort of did broadcasts, and some of the exhibitions that they put on. I could understand taking quite a bit of money, like they did. A Minecraft area, shall we say? You got the cows and what have you, and props like that are not specifically cheap to manufacture. So can maybe understand some of the pricing in that. So if they're going to do something absolutely fantastic, maybe that you maybe get something out of it. Yep. Excuse me a second, I've got somebody wanting to steal my chocolate. So I had an Easter egg given to me for Easter, of course, and so far the only person that's had any of the Easter egg has been the person that gave me the Easter egg. I don't mind, but it's I find it funny. Yeah, that well, yeah, as you put there, the time between them announcing the price and making them available, I think was wrong. Something like that, I can imagine. People just don't have that quantity of disposable income, so they kind of need to save up. So kind of even anything up to a year in advance, sort of almost saying to people, okay, well next year, it's going to need to be 160 quid or whatever per ticket. At least give somebody notice, and we expect it to be about in a particular time of year. I think I'd have liked to have seen that. I mean, I think though the way that they released the tickets in separate batches was a good idea. So you got people stood a chance of getting them if they weren't in a particular time zone or weren't prepared to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to go and buy tickets. And I kind of wish a lot of concert promoters would do things like that. Save half the good tickets and release them a week later or something like that, so you don't have to be at 9 a.m. trying to get onto a ticket site and trying to buy tickets when 500,000 other people are doing the same. But yeah, TwitchCon I'm not convinced by. As I say, it may turn out to be fantastic if they actually relate it to Twitch itself. But if it's just the big gamers, which rumours sort of suggest that they are being their expenses are covered, shall we say, to turn up, and I think they're the big draw. They're going to be the money makers for that. Yeah. Well, I'm not particularly a convention goer. I'm not particularly. I kind of. I'm a radio amateur. I used to go to a lot of radio amateur shows when I was younger, but to be honest, I kind of got tired of going to anything, a convention or anything like that, where it's so crowded that you can't actually get near what you want to look at, and people are just pushing you out the way and pushing the way past you, and you're struggling to get anywhere, and queues for food are 1,000 miles long, and it's captive audience, so they're really expensive, and it's the noise just of several thousand people in an exhibition hall just gets to me after a while, and I just want to be out of the place. So I kind of stopped going to conventions and things like that a long time ago. I mean, there's been some really good ones, I guess, or there's been some ones that I kind of would have liked to go to, some of the Star Trek stuff, or just quite a lot, art exhibitions even. I mean art materials type of things. The art shop in a exhibition centre that I'd love to have gone to, but it's just the thought of having to fight my way through crowds, and well, I don't know about the rip-off, and because I kind of never been to one, but it would be nice, but I don't, I don't know who are the big. I really don't know who are the big creative streamers, to be honest. I mean, I was looking tonight, and I think Danish was. He wasn't in creative, but he was about the third biggest. He did 100 odd people, and I think the biggest one in creative was about 350, I think. kind of haven't really heard of any creative streamers going to TwitchCon, or for that matter any of the music people. So, mind you, I guess the current ongoing discussion, shall we say, with regard to music probably has some impact on that, but I don't think creative has any particular legal loopholes to get through. And as you say, gaming has a limited audience, really. Yes, it's the kids, and kids don't spend a lot of money, really, do they? Now that's a misnomer, because some of the kids have 50 quid pocket money. But you I'm kind of surprised that Twitch hasn't really made any sort of moves towards the market of people with disposable income. Oh yeah, I remember you saying something about that. Yeah, it's kind of weird, because I guess if it had been advertised to you as a trade show, 30 quid entry's a bit pricey, but as a trade show, shall we say, and there'll be a few pops, you'd have probably been alright with it, really, wouldn't you? I mean, maybe 30 quid's a bit much, but but then I guess they set the expectation, don't they, that there's all these events going on, and it's, if they say anything about the added extra, it's in little tiny writing in the bottom, and you don't see it, and that's when the disappointment sets in, I think. But half the time when I went to any sorts of exhibitions, I actually find it more fun going around the trade stalls than I do sometimes going to some of the panels. That's a long time ago, mind, and I used to go to a lot of trade shows and things like that for work, and I'd have more fun just going around the stalls, seeing what's there and what's going on, and talking to the people on those stalls. Yeah, it's all about expectations, isn't it? It's all about and being reasonable without going over the top. Well, I am going to just finish down to the bottom of this, and then I've getting quite warm doing this. I shall soon give up for the evening, I think. If nothing else, I could do with getting a profile picture up on Twitch, so could maybe do some work on that. Ow. Yeah, but he still got paid, didn't he? Oh dear. Yeah, it reflects badly on the actors, doesn't it? But I do sometimes find it interesting when, after a convention, you get the famous people who say, yeah, I wasn't happy about it, I didn't like, it was like, cattle market. And I don't know if this happened in this case at all. And you kind of go, well, why didn't you do something about it at the time? You could have said, well, I tell you what, let's do my bit for free or something like that, but no. Oh, okay, he sure did. Well, fair enough. Yeah. But, you know, I'm a cynical person sometimes. Now I've got a tram line on there, so I call them tram lines. It's the blobs that come at the end and start of a stroke if I'm not careful. I'm getting rather warm. I think I'm going to leave that particular bit for this evening. I'm going to put that tool down there and I'm going to sit back for a few minutes free, and I think there's only probably a couple of people in the stream at the moment, and two of me, you and me. But I encourage anybody who is watching the stream and feels that they want to do so to join us in chat. You know, it's the conversation is free ranging, anything from me describing what I'm doing to, as you've seen tonight, we've talked about art. We're kind of bitching about Twitch and one or two other things, and kind of having a bit of fun. So, but yeah, join in the chat, and if you would like the conversation to go a different way, direct it in that direction, as long as it's what's the word I'm looking for? As long as it doesn't go in directions which are against terms and conditions, that's quite alright. Dave Prowse. Okay, Dave Prowse, he's the, if I remember rightly, now I'm going to say something here which I'm probably totally wrong, but I've got a feeling he's Darth Vader. Oh, I can't see that one. Mine says 655 at the moment. 666, I like that. I don't know. Twitch stats are interesting as well. Yeah, I was right then. Yes, Twitch stats are interesting. I'm interested in them because statistics is what I'm doing at work at the moment, and graphs and things. But I'm not looking at it from the point of view, I'm not, what's the word, I'm not looking at it, my view count must go up, or and doing things like that. I'm just interested in what Twitch collects and things like that, and I find it interesting how things like the viewer the viewer count is 20 20 20 20 20 20 20 160. It's always 20, and you think, I didn't have 20 people in chat, and I know it's concurrent view and all this stuff, but I just find it funny how it caps out, and things like it says you didn't have any viewers last Thursday, and it's kind of like, well, I know I spent 2 hours talking to some people, and stuff like that. And what's the one that amuses me? Oh yeah, I haven't quite worked out. There's a couple of stats which will, if I go on now, will show me the count of whatever it is at this time of night, and it's kind of like the other stats are all delayed by 24 hours. But I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, I'm sure these are delayed and somebody's put the wrong date on the bottom or something like that, and it'll be something like. Because I generally seem to stream about midday wherever Twitch is, and when you look at the stats, it's kind of like it's showing it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think, well, if I started at midday and they think it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then it's 2 o'clock in the morning at the moment, and I'm looking at my clock and going, but I've just finished streaming at 10 o'clock at night. So this is telling me that 4 hours ago, before I started streaming, I had 20 viewers. Oh, I made that up, but how's that work? No, I've not seen Social Blade website. What's that? Yeah, dear. Lazy Cactus. Did I see Lazy Cactus actually the pop-up? Oh, I don't recall the main pop-up for Lazy Cactus. Well, it must have been because Stats is telling me I've only had one follower tonight, so it must have been Lazy Cactus, and I know we've had one. Okay. Well, right. So this is going to tell me something about myself, is it? Twitch statistics summary. Follower rank non-existent. Channel views rank non-existent. Rank not applicable. Followers in the last 30 days. Oh, at least that bit's right. 64. Kind of surprised me. Last active. Yes, a cute cat, because it wouldn't let me call it what I was trying to because it's a rude word. Okay. User. Yeah, okay. That's not when I started streaming. Yeah. 672 channel views. Ah, dear. It's. I think the statement, the old joke, lies, damn lies and statistics, doesn't have apply to a lot of things. Okay. So, daily average Twitch followers, no information. Daily average Twitch channel views, no information. Ah, dear. This must be built for to expect hundreds and thousands. Because I average at least 3 a day. Oh dear. you know, I've been trying to do predictions with stats. Well, yeah, I'm having fun with it, but we've got a set of statistics that I've been analysing at work, and I've had to interpolate results, which is put values in between existing ones. So you're predicting what it would have been if you'd have measured it at that point, but it's called interpolation. Predicting is when you go outside of the known range, say before your first or after your last one. And it's getting some really fancy maths, quadratic equations and fourth power logarithmic functions and things like that, and it's it's not showing anything on mine, and statistics stuff. God, you don't need to know a lot of maths. Oh, you've actually got values there. Twitch followers. I thought you got. Oh, I was about to say I thought you got over 300, and of course I've started at the top and you've got to come down. I'm catching up with you, Free. I've got. We're 64 now. I'm only a fifth behind you. That's not very far. Double it a couple of times, and I'm ahead of you. Channel views. Daily average plus 3 a day. That's not bad. Oh, and actually I didn't notice the graphs on the bottom. Oh, March the 15th, is that when you start, or round about there when you started doing your airbrushing as opposed to doing the Minecraft stuff? Because it doesn't have to take a jump at that point, doesn't it? And you've got a steady climb as well. That looks to be a statistically valid climb, does that, in terms of both followers and views. they are consistent as well, which suggests that your views translate into followers, which is good. Well, yeah. Lost hosted me the other night, and I didn't actually get one from their Lost. And if you're listening, I don't mind. Oh, Miss Cookie's raid night. Ah, right. Well, I'm going to say it's made a difference because the curve, it's a straight line, but the increase as the increase has increased rate. There. The slope's got steeper since then, so it really is a case of the more you have, the quicker you get them, isn't it? I think it's kind of surprised me how I've got to, because you were talking how long it took you to get to your 70, as you mentioned there. It kind of surprised me that I've got 63 people following me, and I think it was kind of you and Lost and a couple of others sort of fairly early on who were the first people that actually followed me. But I'm kind of surprised just how quickly mine has jumped to 60 plus. In fact, it's I'm kind of amazed. I think yesterday I didn't get any at all. It's kind of the first day I've broadcast, I think, where I didn't get a follower, and that kind of surprised me a little bit. I'm not hung up on them, by the way. As I say, it just fascinates me. Ah, dear. Yeah. Well, not according to the not according to these graphs there. The followers maybe has tailed off a little bit right at the end, but your total views graph here, it doesn't look to have dropped off at all. I think you're probably getting people dropping in and disappearing, so they're not staying. Like it seems to happen in a lot of creative streams, people don't stay for very long. They drop in, look out, and then disappear. And I think it's just the nature of people like certain things and not others. But don't notice that. Your followers maybe, but that's either way, isn't it? Really. I kind of would be interested to actually somehow get and I suppose you can do it by going into not chat, but I've got a real block on names this afternoon. What's the underlying thing for chat? Because you can go in through IRC and you can actually see the joins and leave messages, but it kind of would be interesting. I think maybe I might try that just to see when people pop into the stream and disappear, because of course the view count on the dashboard is so delayed that it's basically meaningless. Yeah. Yes, possibly. I mean, I haven't really thought about it either way. In terms of creative was a good place, and I'd no really interest in broadcasting a game, and literally it was you that watching you broadcast airbrushing, which kind of just said, well, I like doing this, I might as well do it as well, kind of thing. I wasn't let people see what's going on, which was kind of your philosophy to some extent. I have no expectation that I could make a living off of doing this sort of thing, at least not for a good many years, or not to substitute the job that I'm currently doing. It would be nice if I could, because I'd love to do artwork to that level and do it all day, but Twitch just can't compete with my normal job, which I enjoy doing as well, so it's not as though I'm doing a job I don't like or anything like that. So Okay, maybe I have to have a look. I'm not, as you say, you're not hung up on the numbers, and they are delayed so much that it is really meaningless. And I guess even in chat you can pop the lurkers list up, so to speak, and see how many are there. But yeah, no, because they try too hard, don't they? Really. I mean, it's like, I guess the other night, might have been with you. We were kind of joking, kind of, about money for the adverts or stuff like that. Please follow me. It's gets me one closer in, and just having a bit of fun with it. But yeah, it's. When they take it so seriously that it just shows up, they lose the personality, don't they, or whatever it is that potentially got you there. I know I see a few even in creative where they're going, the drive for 200 users or 200 followers, and it's kind of, I don't really want to contribute to that, It's. But that's my personal opinion, Other people, I'm sure, have different ones, and the people that want to do that, they may be wanting to do it as a career, and it's just my personality that says I'm not interested in that approach. It certainly seems like some of the big streamers that I watch, and I don't watch many, there's the Squirrel is one that I watch, who's just gone full time. Dan's Gaming I watch. There's just ones that I've come across that it's their personality that I watch. Doesn't matter what apart from when Dan cleans his bathroom, but it's not it's not what they're doing. It's the way that they're doing it. Their social interaction, and I know they don't interact with with the chat as much as they would if they got less, but it's just the way in which they do it that makes me want to watch. And they because of that, the people are followed, and they're quite loyal, some of them. I don't know whether I'd apply. I wouldn't actually say it would be nice to have partnership, and I might apply for. It's not going to offer a lot of money. If that was, I'm not expecting partnership to give me a lot of money. What I would potentially be looking at it for is because it's a bit more promotion, and you get the transcodes as a partner. Most of not all the partners, I'm not sure now, get the transcodes as opposed to hit and miss if you happen to be at top of the list when a transcode comes available. And in some ways it's kind of a badge of accomplishment. I won't say progress, because it's, and I know it's somewhat arbitrary who gets it and for what reason and stuff like that, but at least it says you've got so far, you've got a certain following, that sort of. I'm not really into badges or anything like that. I don't do that, but it does seem to be something to have at the back of in the future. It something to work towards. It's something which says, I don't know. I can't quite get the words I mean, but you know what I mean. I'm not seriously driving for it and anything like that, but if I get enough viewers, then I'd quite like to ask, say, please can I have it? And if I don't get it, I'm not going to be upset or throw my toys out the pram. I'm just going, oh, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Are you suggesting that's what Danish did then? Because he doesn't. He only regularly has sort of 150 viewers or something like that. So there was some suggestion. It's it's a reasonably large number of consistent viewers, like 100 or something like that, could be enough. it would be really interesting, because I think if you're talking about the game streams, then you've got the measure of the people that are pulling in 10,000 users every time they switch a camera on, and so the spectrum of the top, making up the top 10% who are partners, if you like, if that was the ratio that they worked at. If you take something like creative, then the top 10%, if you treat them as completely separate categories, there should be just as many partners in creative. Oh, did he have it before he came over? He just carried it across from Justin, did he then, Free? Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Though, in that particular case. It's I know there's okay. I don't know the history of it at all, to be honest. As you know, I just came across it actually because of JB Drawing, Artillery 62, seeing him and seeing in his title, streaming on creative, because I followed him, and I thought, what's this creative? But I think it would be good if Twitch had a policy which was reasonably clear as to what, who or when partnership would be considered. As you say, if you get seeing people that are partnered with less than 300 viewers or 350 viewers, followers, which potentially means that their viewer counts must be in the single digits, a bit like a meme really, then you kind of wonder how on earth they get it. And then it's kind of like, well, why can't I have it if those are, because they can't be pulling in. I know partnership has got nothing to do with the shared revenue, but they can't be pulling in a lot of ad revenue for Twitch, which is what it's all about, really. Yeah. Oh well, we're not going to put Twitch right. Follow the money. You might understand it that way, I guess. But Twitch is what it is. Our only choice is either deal with it and play whatever the game is, or you choose a different method of putting video out there. Yeah, and you regularly get more than 9. Oh, and according to Twitch, I'm currently offline. Oh, I'm back online again now. Oh dear. I think, I've actually spent almost as much time talking after I stopped streaming. Actually, been half an hour talking. I think, well, as I say, I will. I may well apply when I feel like I've got enough and see what happens. But I'm not. It's not a goal for me at all. As you say, it's the community. It's talking to people as we have been doing tonight, and that's it's fun. It's nice to do artwork, and even if I don't get as much done as I want it to do, or I get distracted, but it is fun to do the artwork and talk to people at the same time. I never quite understand how you manage to be a professional and manage to live on what you're doing 2 hours free. I'm guessing you must do some when we're not around. I think I will stop the stream shortly. I'm gonna have some of my chocolate while there's still some left. I think, although it's been in a warm room and I hate warm chocolate, but I know if I put it in the fridge it definitely won't stay very long. That's why I tend to have things like those hot spicy Doritos, because I know she don't like them. So if I get them I can leave them around as long as I want and they never get borrowed. Dear. Luckily it's not a job for me, it's a hobby. Anybody, I'm going to do the commercial bit now, haven't I? I mean, we've been talking about follows and things like that, so I've got to do the commercial. So if you are following this, I'm sure there's a few people that are lurking in stream at the moment, listening to me talk back to 3D Bloke and Bubbles. And thank you for sticking around, Bubbles. I hope we haven't bored you. Have a good night. But the advert bit, of course, is if you do want to come and listen to even more of this esoteric and varied chat, or even occasionally see some artwork done, feel free to click the follow button, and maybe Twitch might just tell you when I'm on stream, but you can also, of course, follow me on Twitter, and hopefully, unlike 3D Bloke there, if you've got Twitter feed running, you'll get to know when I come live. And I'm just finding my mouse, and they're gone. According to my preview window, I have 4 people currently watching the stream, and I'm one of them because I'm previewing my own stream. And quite how the robot or whoever it was there that tried to advertise something thinks going to make much profit out of 4 people, one of who is the streamer, I'm not quite sure. Dear. So commercial over from my point of view, and they follow, and they follow me on Twitter. And I don't tweet a great deal, by the way, in case you're worried. Unlike some people who would tweet when they have a cup of coffee, I tweet when I go live, and that's about it. Okay, it's Twitch is just a bit delayed, is it? Fair enough, just me and you. Oh, even that. Yeah, I'm the only one in my chat at the moment. Oh dear. So you're not really here free, okay? But anybody who is here, follow 3D Bloke as well. Say he's an excellent artist, and airbrushing, a very fascinating art form it is as well. And some of the pieces he does is amazing. So even if there is nobody here free, there you've just had a free advert. Dear, gotta do that for the other people in creative. They're amazing. Those are not the views you're looking for. Yes, I like that one, Bubbles. Dear. Silly viewer list, yeah. That's right, yeah. I am not here in this room. You cannot see me. Which is perfectly true, because I've got the camera pointed down. I tell you what, just before I finish, you can look at me upside down. Hello there. Here you go. I'll make it easy for you. That's me. Hello and goodbye. I'm not holding that up there like that for long. But now you know what I look like. Special free offer, not to be repeated for a little while. Dear. It's most concerning watching the delayed feedback on the preview window then. I thought, who on earth am I? Because I'm used to video conferencing, and I suddenly thought, who am I talking to? Dear. Right, well, as I say, I think that's it for tonight. I will be on again tomorrow night. I may come on in the afternoon and just stream something different for the afternoon, but that really depends on what tomorrow's like and the weather and things. So, but I'll be continuing on with the pyrography tomorrow night. So have a good evening, everybody. It's been most enjoyable. Batman or Spider-Man? Don't understand that one. That reference unfortunately has passed me by. I'm too old for it, you see. Although I do remember Batman and Spider-Man, but the original ones. Yes, I am that old. Again, thank you, Bubbles, Free, and anybody else. It has been a really fun evening, and thank you very much for chatting. And you, Bubbles, thank you for putting me onto those beads. I look forward to it. Oh, I see. I understand. I like it. You are quick tonight. Yeah, I didn't get. It's usually my trick is those obscure references, but I didn't catch me. Yeah. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.